Big show coming up. We've got John Casey breaking down the NBL Grand Final Series Game 4, and we've got Derek Rucker, the Opals name their squad, and we've got free agency in the NBL.
This is the Basketball Show with Shane the Hammer Heel. What they gonna say next?
Hello and welcome to the Basketball Show, proudly brought to you by Boost Mobile, throwbackstore.com.au and Code Sports. Well, the girls are away, so the boys are going to play. We've got a big show. We've got Derek Rucker and John Casey on this week. The Opals have named their Olympic squad, so we'll have a good look at that. NCAA. But free agency, I'm going to go hard on free agents. I don't know what's going on with the free agents. Where's Mitch McCarron going? We're going to talk about it all and more. Let's get into it. All right, time for the starting five, brought to you by throwbackstore.com.au. Get in there, check it out. And we've got the pocket rocket, Derek Rucker, all the way from Brizzy. You're all over the country these days, mate. Welcome to Starting Five. Well, we know the Americans are a little bit slow, and you can attest to that firsthand. Adam Silver's finally come to his senses. We've been telling him I've been saying it for 3 to 5 years. Don't worry about the All-Star game. Let's go the Americans versus the rest of the world, and we finally might see it.
Yeah, I think it'll be pretty interesting, but I wouldn't be too far ahead of ourselves because, look, this is going to be predicated on the European side by the intensity and the focus of two guys, Jokic and Luka. If those guys don't buy in and want to compete and play hard, then we're going to just be stuck in a slightly better version of what we've had for the past decade or so. And the Americans, who knows what's going to go there.
Why wouldn't they compete? What do you mean? The Europeans competed everything.
Hey,
it's only the Americans that don't compete.
Now, did you watch Luka in that All-Star game? Did you watch Jokic in that All-Star game?
That's because he got sucked in.
Americanized, not sure. The more they get Americanized into that culture, I'm not sure that it matters as much to them. Now, it's a different story, obviously, when they play for their national teams, but this ain't their national team.
Mate, when they get around each other and Giannis is there and there's pride, because believe me, mate, the way the Americans carry themselves as the world champion NBA and all the rest of it, believe me, the rest of the world, they want to beat America. So there is no doubt that they are going to roll their sleeves up and get that done. I'll be shattered if they don't have a red hot crack.
Well, I wouldn't be too hopeful about this because that money matters, Hammer. It's one thing to go out there and get hurt playing for your national team. You go out there and get hurt in an all-star game, in an exhibition event. I'm curious. I want to see it happen. It should have happened several years ago. Let's bring it on ASAP. And we don't want to wait 2 to 3 years while they figure out all the parameters and so forth. Let's do it next season. Get it popping.
Okay, let's go. Rest in peace, the G League. Ignite. It is done. That's got to be good for the NBL, right?
I think so. And the G League Ignite, it just never got going. They had a couple of decent years. I had a player, Mojave King, play in it. And it's just such a transient situation. You've got mostly young players. Everyone's playing for themselves. It hasn't been the experience, I believe, that a lot of the younger players and probably the NBA had anticipated. So it's a good move. It will really increase the strength of the G League and also, I believe, provide more candidates for the NBL's Next Star program also.
Okay, well, we'll check that out. What about Wemby? Now, I'm a fan. What he's done in his first year is incredible, but he has absolutely lost his mind. He has come out overnight and said at the Olympics, France, it's gold or bust. Now, I'm not sure whether he's too aware. One, they finished 18th at the World Cup. Now, that was a big underachievement. We know that because they are a powerhouse. But gold or bust, is he kidding?
Well, given his success this year in the NBA, perhaps.
Well, personally, personal success. He's not used to winning. Maybe that's why he's getting excited because he hasn't won in 2 months.
Well, they're coming around. They're winning some games every now and then. Look, they're not good. You're correct. But perhaps he's feeling himself and seeing how dominant he is starting to be in the NBA. Hey man, maybe he thinks he can carry that over to FIBA level, but I can guarantee you, they're not knocking off Canada. They're not knocking off United States. I think they'd have troubles knocking off Luca. And Australia, even though France has kind of been a bogey team, I'm not sure they can beat Australia now.
And I'll tell you another thing, mate. The FIBA game is very, very different. Just ask some of those
Yes.
young superstars out of the NBA that played for America that couldn't get a medal as well. Wemby's not putting up the same numbers at the Olympic Games as he is in the NBA. Not even close. It is going to be a struggle for him and a good learning experience.
And Hammer, the NBA actually suits his body type. It suits his playing style. He can get the ball out on the floor, dance with it, and do some stuff and show all those skills. FIBA, that's not happening. Look how Giannis has really struggled, and Giannis is a far better player than Wemby. It takes time to learn the game. LeBron struggled. We saw LeBron in the early days when he made Olympic appearances. He was horrible.
Yeah. Okay, back to the NBL. And one guy I want to give a shout out, and I want to get your opinion because this is a great lesson for other players. Magn Deng. He's hardly played all year. 15 points in the last quarter. When he got his opportunity, Lee goes down. The big fella, the coach says, yep, you're in. And he was unbelievable. Rip-throughs, dunks, pick and pop threes. It is hard when you haven't played all year, when your number is called, to stay ready and have that sort of impact on a game.
Well, I have extra respect and admiration for guys that are able to do that and be uncertain, because I'm sure, Shane, reading the climate of the series so far, going into game 3, he probably felt he was no chance of playing. He'd been playing limited, super limited minutes. And as you said, Lee goes down with the injury. Scott Roth calls his number. And look, I worked with Magn Deng last offseason when he was up here playing NBL 1 North for the Logan Thunder. Great guy, Hammer. Outstanding character. Was great with all the DRB athletes. So to see him get this opportunity and take advantage of it, I knew it was there because I know how he works, his work ethic, his mindset. All those things sound kind of corny when we talk about them. People probably get sick of hearing about it, but it's reality. Unless you have those things under control and pay attention to them and work on them, you can't do what my man did the other day. That was amazing. He single-handedly, other than the Jack McVay bomb, he put them back into position where the bomb could happen. He saved their season.
He changed the whole complexity of that game and the series, because what it did too is it forced Dean Vickerman to go small, because none of the bigs, JLA was lost. He looked like a baby giraffe trying to close out against Deng that was ripping through and dunking it on him, and the pick and pops. They had to totally change things, and a credit to him because he must have a work ethic, because it's the work that he did behind closed doors when they were having days off and everything else for him to stay ready for when he got his opportunity to shine. So well done to him. Another player.
Let me ask you one other question, Hammer, though. Knowing that you have this up your sleeve now, if you're Scott Roth, when do you kind of go with it? What are you looking for when you play that card in game 4?
Well, I think he has to go to it early. I think he has to go with the momentum.
Okay.
I really do. I think he has to come into the rotations, and let's see what Dean Vickerman's got and what he's been able to come up with, because they didn't handle it well. They didn't handle it well and all. We might dig into that a little bit later. Last one. As far as what I can see, Tyrese Proctor, is he the only one, Sweet 16, is he the only one left for Duke in the NCAA, and is that a surprise?
Well, we've been fortunate enough to have good players play at good level, and there have been so many upsets. Kansas going down, Kentucky going down. It's been absurd, this March Madness event. And Tyrese now has to carry the flag. He's played pretty solid basketball, but I think more importantly, he's got to show the NBA scouts now in a high pressure situation that he can perform and that he has what it takes to play at the next level. Because, I would imagine that he would like to come out after this season and have a crack at the NBA. And it's not a particularly strong draft. it's one where there's a lot of uncertainty with the talent. So it's a real interesting fortnight coming up for him and the Duke Blue Devils.
Well, gut feel says he'd probably wait until next year. I think he's a great kid and he's a huge upside, and he'll be a lottery pick, I think, the season after. So good luck to him, and we'll keep an eye on those results. But that's our starting five. All right, bringing the guru, John Casey, into points made. Big grand final week, Case, and I know you're a little bit stubborn. Now, you've picked Melbourne United to win the championship. Are you going to stay with them for Game 4?
No doubt, Hammer. I'm sticking with Melbourne United. You would howl me down if I changed my tip now, but I've been on them for a long time, from mid-season really, because they were playing well, top of the ladder, all the resources, great depth, great coach, leaders, winners. They tick every box, and I just thought the championship was theirs to lose. And that's the way it's shaping at the moment, because in that Game 3, well, it was theirs to lose, and they got beaten on the buzzer, but they played well, led by double figures, got the offense going. Credit to Tasmania as well, because they've come to the party. I think they've really provided what is a tremendous grand final series. I've really enjoyed the back and forth, high quality shot making. Both teams have had their moments, but overall, Melbourne have led for something like 90 minutes of the 3 games, and Tassie less than 20. They've had a double-figure lead in every game. They had a double-figure lead. They were 15 up down in Tassie the last time. So I think that they can win in Tassie, force a Game 5, and then win at home in front of their fans.
Well, there's no doubt there's going to be a chance. There's no doubt that Dean Vickerman's going to make some adjustments, because I didn't think he made the necessary adjustments, and I didn't think they did. They had a 10-point lead, as you spoke about, Case, in that last quarter. I thought some of the shot selection when they got a 10-point lead. I know Illy took a contested 3. I saw Bowen take a wide open shot. Someone needs to tell that kid, mate, you're open because they're leaving you open. They were 3-4 metres away, challenging him to be able to take it. And he's a good kid. He can play a valuable role, but that's not your shot when the game is on the line. And I thought JLA, and I said this during the year, that I feel like there's a part of him that's really overrated. I feel like he hasn't come to play. His defense in that last quarter against Deng was very, very average at best. Their pick and roll coverage really struggled for Melbourne United. They were trying to switch it, but they didn't get out to the switches. They gave easy baskets. They couldn't get the pick and pops. And I thought that, it was probably done not by design, but because Lee went down, that then comes into that game. 15 points in the last quarter. They had no answers. So I'm going to be intrigued to see what Dean Vickerman does when that small ball arises, Case.
Well, it's certainly a little bit of pressure on Dean Vickerman, but I like the response that he's given in terms of what's being said post-game to that. Now, I'll ask you this, Hammer. Is Deng going to score 15 again in the last quarter? Is Jack McVeigh going to hit another shot from halfway? If that's what they need to do to win, that's why I think Melbourne can turn the tables and force this to a Game 5 and then take the championship there. But going back to JLA, I agree with you. The problem with Joe Luala-Chul Jr. is the difference between his best and his worst. It's still too far a gap. I mean, he had 22 and 10 or 11 in Game 1, was the MVP. But he does have times during the game where it seems like he loses his way a little bit, and then he can be subbed out of the game. Huporti comes in and gives some good minutes, and then he's left to brood on the bench. And I don't think the chemistry is right there at the moment. So the question mark is, and it's a big challenge for Luala-Chul, is to knuckle down, play his role. If that Melbourne team, every player on that roster plays their role, then they're too good for Tasmania. And they've proven that by leading by double figures in all 3 games, by leading for the vast majority of those games. So they've got the tools to win, but Tassie have the will and a tremendous coach in Scott Roth. And as you mentioned, we're seeing that again when he decided to go with Deng. The interesting thing for me in this series, one of the most interesting stats that I've read, Will Magnay has not blocked a shot. Not one in 3 games. And if you said that at the start of the series, you would have been laughed out of town.
Well, his impact on this series has been negligible. There's no doubt about that. And I think that's still the upside of what they have to come as well. But, back to JLA, it's the little things that I don't think he's prepared to do. You look at those closeouts on Deng, and he ripped through, his eyes lit up, he ripped through and then just dunked it hard. And he's not doing the little things that it takes to win playoff basketball. And you say that they're the better team, but they haven't been the better team in the crunch. They haven't been the better team to be able to protect a 10-point lead. And what they have to do is find solutions when it counts. When the pressure's on, in the final moments, can they come through? And Tassie have found a way. The thing I like about Tassie, and I'm not seeing this with Melbourne United, Tassie's bench is into it. You look at the end of that game, Dremic's not playing, but he was up, he was clapping, he was into the game. He wanted his team to win. You could see that 1 through 12, they were engaged. I'm looking at the Melbourne United guys. When JLA came out, he didn't show any enthusiasm. He wasn't into it. Their bench weren't engaged the same way from 1 to 12 that Tassie are. And I think that's the grit that they're able to stay for the entire game and have some sort of belief that they can get it done. When the defensive effort for Tassie to be able to cause that turnover and the lack of players that put their body on the line to be able to hold off, to be able to get an inbounds pass was terrible by Melbourne United. I don't understand why Daly was throwing the ball in. Daly, to me, is their strongest guard that has an ability to be able to hold a player off and go and get the ball and shoot those free throws during crunch. I didn't see that from some of those Melbourne United guys. So they're going to have to turn the tables. I'm not saying they can't win because they have the ability to be able to do that. They have the veterans to be able to do it. But gee whiz, Tassie's been very, very impressive.
They sure have, and I'm not sort of taking anything away from Tassie because I'd be very happy if they were to go on and win it. I think everyone would be, and it's a good point that you make, and you know it better than most, having been there and done that in grand final series and internationally as well. But, you know, I have to say I was 1.5 meters from where Chris Goulding received that pass from Dellavedova, and Goulding was fouled. The referees didn't have a good position on it, didn't have a good angle on it, but I did, and he was fouled. He should have been on the free throw line. Now, I'm not saying that to deny Tasmania the win. But that was my impression, and I was right there close to it, had a very good angle on it. But you're right, in that crunch times, that's where they need to find it, don't they? But they've got Delhi, as you say. They've got Ian Clark, who's got experience. So and Goulding as well. I think they'll find a way to fight through that. And I just think the numbers stack up in Melbourne's favour, but full credit to Tassie. Love what they've done, and particularly the whole state getting behind them. And you're right about the group being up and about because they lead Melbourne in that category, and that's a big factor in a grand final series, as you well know.
The boy that cried wolf, Case. If you're going to flop, and you're going to flop during the season and you get a reputation for it, then in crunch time when you're waiting for that call, then there's no trust and the referees don't call it. But anyway, I can't wait for a big game Thursday night, Game 4, and the whole state of Tasmania are going to be behind them. So well done to them. Okay, Case, let's get on to the Opals. They've named a 26-woman squad. Some very excited people that now have their names in the hat. And one step closer to hopefully a berth for them for the Opals. What did you think of the squad?
Really like it, Hammer. 26 is a big number. It has to be cut down to 12, 120 days or so out from the Paris Olympics. So a lot of those players are going to be disappointed not to be in Paris. But I like the youth, the young talent that's coming through. I mean, we saw Izzy Borlase do a great job at the qualifiers last month in Brazil. We know Jade Melbourne's been developing. Shyla Hill's doing great things overseas at the moment. And Georgia Amore coming through the college system as well. I see it as a changing of the guard. Yes, they've got a handful of players, 30 plus, and Lauren Jackson will be there for her 5th Olympic Games, which is just outstanding. But it's going to have to be a changing of the guard on the fly. They're not going to be able to go with those experienced players right throughout the tournament, and they've got a tough pool. Let's not forget that. Up against Canada, world number 5. They've got France, the host nation, world number 7, and Nigeria, world number 12. So Australia at 3 are expected to get through their pool, but it won't be easy pickings for them. But I can see those younger players stepping into playing heavier roles and more minutes at this Olympics than perhaps we were anticipating when we were looking at this from a longer picture term. But really excited for it. I think there's a lot of young talent there. How they handle the big occasion is going to be crucial. But the Opals, I think no one's missed out that I can see in terms of not there that should be there. So it's up to the coaching staff now and Sandy Brondello to find the final 12 and get them into a position that they can apply for a medal.
Yeah, I mean, You mentioned Ball A's, like she's one of my favourites. I think she's going to be a star of the future. I think she's going to get drafted highly. I think she's going to be a really good WNBA player, and the sooner that she's in an Opals team, I think the better, because she's got that tough international body. She reminds me a lot of Talbot that she plays behind. So I think she's going to be a star of the future. And a lot of these younger players are going to get opportunities, because we've got 6 or 7 players that are in the WNBA. They won't be available for the upcoming tours. And it creates some problems, because you don't get everybody playing together. And all of the countries that have got players in the WNBA, and we've got a coach in Sandy Brondello, obviously in the WNBA as well, have to prepare without their best players. So it makes it a little bit tougher, but I'm going to be interested to see in those tours, and hopefully we get a chance to see them, and hopefully some games in Australia in that lead up as well, about who's got the form on the board, who is going to put their hand up, and who is going to be able to have an impact in that final 12.
Yeah, and there are going to be games here in Australia, I'm reliably informed, Hammer. So that's great to hear in the lead up to Paris. We've got that to look forward to, seeing the Opals in action against a yet to be determined opponent. But you're right, it's, you know, those senior players, this is the last roll of the dice, you would think, for, you know, Lauren Jackson, obviously, but Sammy Whitcomb, and of course, Kayla George as well. So there's a lot of players that will be there at the last Olympics, and they're going to have to usher in these younger players to take more responsibility. I think Ezzy Magbagor is our best big at the moment. She's been outstanding. Chloe Bibby's doing a great job in Europe as well. So there's a lot of talent there. How they come together and if they can get across the line, it's going to depend on, you know, injuries perhaps, a little bit of luck here and there, as it always does at a tournament like the Olympics. But I think everyone should be glass half full about the Opals medal prospects right now, rather than glass half empty.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I think Ezzy's our best player. Don't worry about our best big. I think she's our best player. I think her form, you know, in a really powerful Euro League, which really dwarfs what we've got here in the WNBL as far as overall talent and standard. She's like one of the MVP favourites. So she's had an outstanding year. The big thing for Ezzy is going to be her elevating her game and being able to come up with buckets as the best player, to be able to score at a time that the team needs to be able to carry that team. We know what she can do defensively. She's a great shot blocker as well. So she's certainly going to have a big impact. But really excited about what the Opals can do.
5. Good job with Jason Wallace sticking his hands in there. How about this? Goodness.
It's our Hoops highlights thanks to Boost Mobile. It's Chet that gets things going.
4.
Pile up the points in the paint and make them have to play some defense.
Bring it down. Bring it down, Bruno, and that matches his career high.
I mean, he gets the pass inside by Bogey, good bounce pass, and he just flushes it.
3.
Blocked by Victor. There's got to be another word for that one. Oh, destroyed.
Oh, mama!
2.
Talk about destroying. And Luka on the floor finds Kyrie. Fantastic to finish that hustle play. Get that ball. One hustle by the league's leading scorer.
Well, Luka on the deck over to Kyrie, and you could just see this building. Derrick Jones Jr.
1.
Right problem. Doyle kept it in. Here's the jumper's chance. McVay, 2 on the clock. Oh! Jack McVay! Simply incredible. Jack McVay with the shot of his life. Tasmania win game 3.
Who else but Jack McVay? That's our Hoops highlights thanks to Boost Mobile. All right, I couldn't let Derek Rucker go because I got too many things to get off my chest, and it starts with free agency, D. I'm not happy. Now, free agency, it's happened forever. 2 weeks after the last grand final game is the time that clubs can't speak to players or their agents. Now, we know that that's rubbish. We know that it happens during the year. It's been happening for months already. And the NBL now is even promoting the speculation of what clubs are speaking to what players and where they're going to go. Why do we even have the rule? Why doesn't the NBL just say, we know it's all fluff, it's rubbish, we're not buying into it, so we're just going to change the rules?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be surprised if that in fact does occur, because there's so much interest in where players are going, which players are looking to move, and you've seen how big it's been already with the engagement on the reporting by the NBL. So to give everyone an equal playing field, it either has to be enforced strictly or relaxed entirely. And one of the things that's interesting is, say your team is deep in the playoffs now, while you may have an agent working for you and on your possible free agency, a lot of players don't want to deal with that if they're in the championship series right now. So they could potentially be missing out on opportunities because they're doing the right thing and focusing on what's most important and kind of sacrificing their own future opportunities at this moment.
Well, I'm not feeling sorry for the playoff teams. I've got to tell you right now. I'm feeling sorry
Why?
for
You can't feel sorry for a guy who wants to do better for his family?
I'm feeling sorry for Cairns, right? So here's Cairns. They're trying to keep a free agent, and they've got this period of time where they're trying to convince him to be able to stay for the money they have. Now, some players are going to say, okay, no, I'm going anyway. I want to play a different opportunity, bigger crowd, try for playoffs, whatever they want to be able to go. But if they don't know the money that's there, then they're rolling the dice. So if their agent is getting calls from other clubs saying, yep, this is how much we can pay you, this is what we want to offer you, then the smaller clubs have no chance of being able to retain some of these free agents.
Well, Hammer, you know what the key to that is? You got to win more games in the regular season. It all comes down to winning or money. And if you don't have a lot of money, you better win a lot of games. And we've seen Cairns be able to do that. They just got to be better in the regular season, and those guys will want to hang around. But it looks like a big-time exodus from the Taipans. You know, Bull Qual, Sam Menenga's already gone. The imports are probably already gone. And I'm hearing rumors about Lap May. And so there's a lot going on up there.
Well, I'm all for the players, so I hope they get paid. Let's talk about a couple of those players that have been spoken about. Mitch McCarron, he was on a big contract. He's not going to get paid the same, I wouldn't have thought, as what he has been on, but there's been talk about him at Perth, New Zealand and Southeast Melbourne. Where do you think the best fit is? Which team can he really help?
To kind of clear his basketball brain, I think it's best for Mitch to go to New Zealand. Get off the mainland, go to New Zealand, play in a good program for a good coach who'll give you good direction and play a purer form of basketball, which is what I think Mitch needs to get back to, as well as shooting the ball from the perimeter. But you're right, he's probably not going to be on the same type of cash that he has been. But if he wants to get to a program where he can win, play his style of basketball without too much burden on his performances, New Zealand is the place to be.
See, I like him in Perth. Next to someone like Cotton, he's going to be like a Norton during their successful days. I think he's a great defender, he's a good rebounder, but he's a reluctant shooter. He's somebody that has the ability to be able to score, and you would like him to score, but some guys just aren't built that way. Some guys don't want to score for whatever reason. They don't want to do it. So if you're a reluctant scorer, then go and play with a superstar scorer. And I think playing beside Bryce Cotton would be a really good fit for him because he does all the dirty work and he has a chance to be able to win. I really like Mitch McCarron. I'd like to see him bounce back.
I like what you're saying there, because there's differences between scorers and shooters. And what I'm saying is he needs to work on his shooting. So Perth could be a very good place where he could just turn into a playmaker and a shooter, get his 3-point percentage up, because those Perth guys get a lot of great looks from the 3-point line.
And they struggle defensively. They need someone like Mitch McCarron. You spoke of New Zealand. Let's talk about Will McDowell-White. He's going to be hot property yet again after being on the market last year.
Now, this is the person who I like to play in Perth. I know there were a lot of discussions last year between him and Bryce Cotton, and I just think it's a place where he can go play his style of basketball, create, and he gives them size at that position. The other one is quite simple with Brian Goorjian in Sydney. If he wants to really learn the game and become a better player, and learn to perform under pressure in a winning environment, then the Sydney Kings are the place that he can go. And also, we know he can get paid. So those are my choices for him. And I imagine also as a third option, back here in Brisbane, he can be close to the family. There's a role for him here in Brisbane. So that's how I kind of see it.
I get the Kings. He's going to get a bag, and politically he's going to go to the best coach in the NBL, the national coach, and an opportunity to be able to make strides to represent his country. Bull Quoll, he said, I'm out.
Well, I'm hearing Phoenix is kind of his preferred destination, which is a little bit risky to me, Shane, because I don't know what their overall direction is. Where are they going? What are they going to be about next season? But if Bull is getting offered some money that he thinks he can't get elsewhere, I get it. But he's a valuable piece, and I would love to see him go somewhere. And this may happen at the Phoenix. They have this offseason to try and get themselves corrected. But I would really like to see him go somewhere where we can see him perform late in the playoffs, because I just think there's a lot of promise there with his talent.
Well, he would be a pretty good matchup with Will McDowell-White in Sydney as well, but you can understand why Southeast Melbourne would need him, because defensively they've been a disaster for the last number of years. Talk that Hunter could end up there as well. All right, Will Magnay getting 2 flop warnings? I'm sitting on the couch. I'm like, this is where these referees need to have played the game a little bit. Magnay was holding his chest that he got hit that hard. I'd like to see some of these blokes stand up and take some of that contact, and then someone standing over them going, hey, flop, get up, little fella.
Well, Hammer, that's part of it. Like, are you supposed to try and stand up? If the force is too great, and look, does that look like he was faking or flopping? Come on. Delhi, who is not a weak guy, all right, puts his whole shoulder and forearm into him and got him up in that spot and dislodged Magnay off the ground. Like, that's a charge. And if he doesn't fall, he's not getting the call if it is a charge anyway. And this is where we're caught. Every time a player falls, but there's no charge called, it doesn't automatically mean it's a flop.
We see so many little soft calls and people rewarded for flopping all over the place. And then you allow Daly, who's a strong guard, allowed to be able to create space just by dipping his shoulder and smashing the other player. I mean, that's hard to understand. Don't worry about that. Talking about this grand final series, game 4. Who were you with at the start of the series? Who did you pick?
Oh, man, there have been so many ups and downs in this series, I can't even remember. I think I went slightly with Melbourne United here on the basketball show. But going into game 4, Shane, I like Tasmania. But if there's any team in the league that can get this done, it is only Melbourne United. They're the only team that can go in there and win this game with their backs up against the wall.
All right, well, that's all we've got time for today. Huge show with Derek and John, lots to discuss. But this is our second last show, so send all your questions in. Next week, we want to get social, answer a lot of the questions that you guys have got, and make a few predictions about what's going to happen in the off-season and next year and leading into the Olympics as well. All brought to you by Boost Mobile, throwbackstore.com.au and Code Sports. We'll see you next week.
This is a co-production by News Corp Australia and Closer Sports.